Hey everyone, I'm Almar of almarsguides.com, and in this video here I'm going to be talking to you about the Paladin build in Titan Quest. So before we jump into this build, I would like to say that in games like these, there's usually like a top tier of builds, top 20% let's say, and then there's like a middle 60% which are just okay, and then there's like a bottom 20% which you gotta really struggle to make them work. And I believe that this combination of masteries is kind of in that bottom 20%. Despite that, I've tried to get the most possible out of this combination with this build, and I feel as if I finally succeeded. This is like my third or fourth attempt at making a good Paladin, and I'm happy enough with what I've got now to release it. And I mean, I can clear the entire game with this Paladin, with this build, so it's, you know, it's functional. It works. It's pretty good. The biggest downside of this build is you gotta chug potions like crazy. It's one of those builds. So if you're thinking about making a build like a Paladin to farm up some items, you're more or less going to be farming to make the Paladin work because you're going to be consuming so many potions. So just keep that in mind. We're going to be chugging mana potions like crazy. So let's look at the defense tree first, and then we'll look at the storm one, and then we'll go over the gear. So adrenaline, this is something I always get in these builds, usually a couple points into adrenaline, a couple points into recharge, and then I always do 1 point into defensive reaction since this is more for melee and we are not melee. Unyielding phalanx, this is going to be one of the more important abilities for this build. It allows us to not be such a one-trick pony with our squall and with our ice shards. So we can do physical damage, ice damage, and lightning damage with this build, which is nice. Rally. So I recommend a couple points into rally. Basically, don't make, what I usually do is to not make sure the heal goes over my total health. At least now that's what I do. I've made that mistake a few times on previous builds. Inspiration, I actually get a few points into it for this build because I like the energy regen. Since we're chugging mana potions like crazy, a little bit more energy regen is actually nice. Might save me a potion here or there. Defiance, this is good for the build because it will buff our elemental resists as well as damage reflected, and since we are stacking recharge time, it means we can have 100% uptime on rally, which is extra nice. So battle awareness and all of the passives get no questions asked. Quick recovery, I recommend you actually max this out for this build because this build we're stacking a little bit of recharge gear. That way we can keep rally up and quick recovery up at all times. And also, it allows us to use unyielding phalanx almost 100% of the time. As you can see, it stays up for 17 seconds and the cooldown is 22.4 seconds. So there's very little downtime on the ability compared to like 40-second usual downtime. We skip shield charge, skip batter. We skip the 3 melee passives on the right-hand side of the tree, but we do want armor handling because that will allow us to invest less attribute points into strength to wear better gear. Very important. And Colossus form, of course, that's just a no-brainer. And I'm currently experimenting with perfect block. I don't really like it that much, so I wouldn't recommend putting any points into it. Now let's jump over and look at our storm tree. So ice shard, that as well as all of the passives, max them out. Summon wisp, I usually recommend like 6 to 8 points in it, at least until end game, and then you can dump more into it if you want. Eye of the Storm, very, very good. Max the shit out of that. It's a very, very good buff for your pet that he's going to use on you that will increase your squall and ice shard damage. So Arc Discharge, I usually throw a point in there just so I can get the buffs from plus skills for it. Squall, this is going to be one of your 2 bread and butter abilities. This usually goes on my right click and I love it. It reduces the damage, resistances, and gives impaired aim to anybody that's standing in the squall. It also does damage to all enemies standing in squall too, which is lovely. So Storm Surge, I like this for the damage it does is nice, but the stun is even nicer. Basically, it procs when enemies are swinging at you, and it's a nice survivability talent because it stuns all enemies around you when it procs. So Storm Nimbus as well as the 2 passives. I usually max out Heart of Frost, but I leave Static Charge until later because Static Charge only works with Squall, and that's like secondary damage to us. Ice Shards is our primary damage, so Heart of Frost I max out. An Energy Shield, I typically throw 1 point into that as well as 1 point into the Reflection passive. And that's really all for Storm. So let's look at my gear. Chakram of the Moon, I chose this because it gives bonus cold damage as well as recharge reduction, both of which are nice for this build. It also gives a flat 10% intelligence, which is nice as well for our extra damage. And it also has 5% of attack damage converted to health, which I like a lot for this build because it allows me to basically keep myself alive so long as I'm attacking. I've also got attack damage, life leech rather, on my Band of Souls. I also have the Necklace of Harmonia, has 17% of attack damage converted to health. So I do stack a little bit of attack damage converted to health, and that helps keep me alive too. Band of Souls I'm mostly using for the vitality damage resistance. The Golden Veil I'm using for the increased damage, the flat increased elemental damage that it gives me, the boost, as well as energy regen and recharge reduction. I would swap this helm out if for something with more pierce resistance and vitality resist, if I could find something nice, and also something with physical damage reduction. That would be nice as well. So Chiron's Loop, the only reason I'm using this is for the pierce resist as well as the poison resist. The extra benefits are nice though that come with it. Health regen isn't too bad, neither is chance to dodge attacks. So the Daimo Shield, I'm using this for the pierce res, the poison res, and the +1 to all skills. Shield block chance is nice too though, not gonna lie. Odysseus's Armor, we're using this for the recharge reduction all requirements, which is nice as well. That allows us to dump less into strength, always a good thing. And it comes with a few other nice bonuses like bonus to strength, intelligence, dex, health regen, energy regen. Nice stuff that lets us spend less attribute points into strength and dex. Also, it comes with less damage from Beastmen, which is worth mentioning because the majority of enemies in this game are Beastmen, so that is nice. Stonebinder's Cuffs I'm mostly using for the +3 to all skills, and I have socketed in it Viney Growth, which gives me health regen as well as pierce resist because I'm short on pierce res. Necklace of Harmonia, I'm using it mostly for the attack damage converted to health, but it also comes with pierce and poison res. I've also done the Ragnarok reforging quest for it, so it has a little bit additional pierce res bonus. Merc Crawlers we're using for the pierce and poison res. That's basically it. Talisman of the Jade Emperor, one of my 2 artifacts. We're using this mostly for the elemental resists, but the recharge reduction is nice on it as well. And we switched the Apples of Idun for Hades and any boss that uses primarily vitality damage. As you can see, I have a shit ton of potions in my inventory because, like I said before, this is a very, very potion heavy build. And I will show you how to play now. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cycling Quick Recovery, Energy Shield, and Rally. You want to use them in between, I'd say every second or third pack of enemies, something like that, because these are going to be one of the main things that we've geared specifically to use. One of the unique things that I am doing with my Paladin is I have recharge reduction gear, and that is specifically so I can keep Rally up 24/7, and so I can keep Quick Recovery up 24/7. Quick Recovery is the more important one of the two, because Quick Recovery will allow me to block multiple times a second. Usually there's an internal 3-second cooldown on blocking, and Quick Recovery allows me to bypass that because it gives me a faster shield recharge time, and that's lovely. I love that. Also, having my bonus, hold on, we need to think here because I was taking a lot of damage. Rally, having the inspiration buffed and being able to keep Rally on me at all times will allow me to have decent mana regen. Like I'll show you after I kill those guys, my Rally mana regen's ticking, and it's pretty darn good, which is one of the reasons that I like grabbing inspiration on this character. It'll save me a mana potion here and there, which is good when it comes to farming, you know? I would actually like to make money when I actually sit down and farm instead of having to just chug mana pot after mana pot. So archers are going to be the hardest enemies for this build and most builds in Titan Quest. The way Ice Shard works is it's best if you can get up in the enemy's face and then Ice Shard them, because you'll hit them with multiple Ice Shards. So it's like a boss killing ability. It's super useful for bosses since you can get in their face and hit them with multiple Ice Shards. It's also good for enemies like this that get in your face. So what I like to do is I like to run into the pack of enemies and drop Squall on top of myself, so the enemies group up on top of me and on top of my Squall. So these guys are archers, so it's a bad example. There we go. They'll group up on top of my Squall, and then I just Ice Shard the whole pack of them. And as you can see, it does pretty good damage, and it takes them out pretty fast. As I said before, you want a little bit of recharge on your gear. I'd say like 40 to 50%. Also, I'd recommend Life Leech or attack damage converted to health. I would also recommend at least +4 to all skills. That would be very, very beneficial. If you had to choose, though, get +4 to all skills in Storm versus Defense. Storm would be the more important one because it has your main damaging abilities. And this build is going to be all about micromanaging your short duration buffs. If you forget them, you'll be able to notice, because you'll start taking a lot more damage. And I forget them constantly. A little bit absent-minded when it comes to short duration buffs. I try to avoid builds that focus on short duration buffs, but when you're writing guides, you kind of got to play everything, get used to everything. Watching my mana regen right now thanks to Rally. Still not super fast. We're still going to have to pop a whole bunch of mana potions. I was hoping that between fights, my mana regen would regen enough to where I wouldn't have to chug another mana potion, but I'm not allowed to be that lucky. So as I said earlier, basically your rotation for this build is going to be drop a Squall on yourself, throw Ice Shards at all of the enemies, and in between packs of enemies, refresh your Quick Recovery, Energy Shield, and Rally. And that just ouchied me. And also drop your Unyielding Phalanx when needed. So as you can see, I can take a pretty good amount of damage because I'm standing toe-to-toe with a very, very hard hitter. And that was the first time I had to use a potion, that last one I used. For this guy, at least. There's the second potion. I started to run low on enemies to hit, which is the reason that I had to potion more at the end there and I was taking more damage. So long as I have a solid amount of enemies in front of me and I'm dealing a solid amount of damage, my attack damage converted to health will keep me alive pretty well. Which is a bit, you have to, like, run in there and open up on enemies and just start wailing on them and not run away. Because if you run away, then you'll stop healing yourself because you'll stop attacking and then you'll die. So it's kind of like playing chicken with this build. So, in other words, it would be a great build for Marty McFly. Hades is pretty straightforward too. Well, this is arguably this room is harder than Hades. I didn't realize I wandered on in here. This has one of the Melano archers, which really ouchies. One of Hades' generals. Oh, cool. I managed to get him stuck in a corner. So he actually turned out to not be too difficult. He has insanely high vitality resist, so he's always a pain in the ass for my vitality builds. Like I did Spellbinder earlier, and yeah, he was a bit of a pain. I can't stand archers. They just make me want to run. So should we do the Warden of Souls? Let's see. It's going to be embarrassing if we die, but I have faith. Nice. We obliterated him. I thought that was going to go way worse than it did. Because we didn't gear swap to the Apples of Ida, so we have -5 vitality res. So if he opened up on us, it would have been unfortunate. And we take a lot of physical damage with this build too, so there is that. If I could change one thing about this build or fix one thing, it would be to stack more physical resistance. Because physical resist is the hardest hitting thing that hurts us. Like, it really... Some of the enemies, like especially Act 5 in Land's End, right before Surtur, those physical hitting enemies really, really do hurt. I get like 4 of them on me, and it's really difficult for me to keep myself up. I gotta basically just spam attack. So let's swap to my relic. Now we have max vitality res, and we're going to show Hades what's for dinner.
You will pay for your children.
Come on, chuck your there you go. Good boy.
Thought to fight a god? Your life ends here.
That should be enough to take him out. My unyielding phalanx and the other thing. The other thing being Squall. Apparently not. My unyielding phalanxes are slacking off. Usually they give Hades the business. And that's all there is to it. You've seen the Paladin build that I've come up with in Titan Quest. If I left anything out, or if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, let me know. Anyway, that's all there is to it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you around the next one. Peace.